And okay, so so good evening, everyone who might be out there or will join us soon. My name is Monique Harding Cordero. I am the co-chair of the Cannabis Task Force. And as we prepare for Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving in advance. It is a short week, so we're going to make sure that we get through everything in the expedient time. And right now we have Julian on board, and we appreciate, Julian, that you got on time. And I guess there's no need to do any call to order or adopt the agenda as of yet. Um, and I think I shared maybe with you, Julian, minutes that we had taken from the September meeting when you and Pascal presented. So hopefully you saw those minutes, and I don't think there were any issues with it, or you would have let me know.
Mhm.
But hey Leo. Hey,
How are you?
glad you made it.
Of course, I was just up away when the store's busy.
Oh, is it busy? Was it
Yeah.
busy today?
For Thursday.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. Yeah, please sign in. Thank you so much, Leo. I think that the stuff that will be shared this evening will be of interest and use to you. And the goal is to go through everything expediently,
Yes.
thoroughly but expediently, because we want to be a resource. So as I was saying, I want to wish everybody a happy holiday. We have a agenda that's pretty, I think, full, but not so full that we won't get through it in a timely fashion. And updates and disinformation that we believe will be useful to all of those in our community. And thank you for joining us. And you have everything as well. We are, so one of the first things on the agenda, um, besides a call to order or even adopting the agenda, which is pretty straightforward, and a minute, we have a presentation, and we usually do presentations at the beginning. So today's presentation will be focused on the potential health and tax benefits regarding medical cannabis. And the tax benefits, when we talk about that, are the benefits to people who are going to be purchasing the medical cannabis. So that's why we say that. So this evening, we were able to get a representative from the Office of Cannabis Management to present on this important issue. And the reason I say it is important is, quite frankly, there's a dearth of accessibility as it relates to medical cannabis uptown. And people who might be interested in it have to go downtown, which I don't think is fair. And, we're going to talk about the benefits, but one of the other things I would like to see us address is what can be done to make medical cannabis accessible uptown. So, with that said, presentation will be given by Julian Vincent from the Office of Cannabis Management. And with that said, Julian, you can take it away. And I think you have the ability to present. Yeah, we made sure that you have the ability. Right now we're sharing, so you should be able to pull up your presentation and show it. There you
Perfect.
go.
Thank you so much for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. My name is Julian Vincent. I am the community liaison for the Office of Cannabis Management. Today, I'll be talking a little bit about our medical cannabis program, but mostly the science behind cannabis and the endocannabinoid system. I'm going to ask you to please save our questions to the end, and I will try to leave my contact information if you guys have any further questions. So, a little bit about cannabis. As you know, cannabis has been around for over thousands of years. It is an annual flowering herb. as shown in the picture here in the slide. It contains about over 500 compounds. These are different compounds that help classify what the plant is. And these compounds are better known as cannabinoids. Cannabinoids are the compounds found within cannabis that interact with our body. And I'll go deeper into that. Some of the major compounds are terpenes and flavonoids. These are terpenes and flavonoids kind of affect the smell and the taste of the cannabis that you're getting. And this, let's say, for example, sometimes if you smell someone smoking, you might get a skunky scent or maybe even a citrus scent. And this is determined by the terpenes in the cannabis. There's also something we call the entourage effect. This is the effects of multiple compounds with multiple compounds and terpenes within the cannabis plant that affects our body. I'll go further in that in the upcoming slide. But two of the most common compounds in cannabis are tetrahydrocannabidiol, also known as THC, and tetrahydrocannabinol and cannabidiol CBD. I still have a problem saying it. THC is most well known for what they call the euphoric effects or the high feeling you would get when consuming the plant, while CBD offers similar health potential benefits without the same high feeling. They both have different effects and compounds that can affect your health, and I'll go more into it later in the later slides. Here, I'm going to discuss the endocannabinoid system, also known as ECS. This system helps regulate the central nervous system and secondary systems within the body. Every living being that has a vertebrae has an endocannabinoid system. We all have it, right? This helps communicate information throughout the body. It's kind of like a bridge between some of our organs and our nervous system. So think of the ECS as a network of electrical outlets that we like to describe across the body. And there's various plugs in those outlets known as cannabinoid receptors. These receptors are activate and the effect that is produced. So in our body, we naturally produce endocannabinoids, right? And it reacts to something. It reacts to something that we call photocannabinoids. This is the compounds we get from cannabis. And that's how sometimes cannabis could affect the different compounds of the different receptors in our body. Just like the outlet plug system, these cannabinoids are plugged into certain receptors, and this could affect our mood, our appetite, how we feel, and even our nervous system and how we think. Scroll down. The endocannabinoids are cannabinoids produced by our body, and photocannabinoids are cannabinoids produced by cannabis or herb plants. And there's also sometimes other plants that can produce photocannabinoids. So huge differentiation between THC and CBD. THC is primarily psychoactive compound. It's a partial antagonist to the CB1 and CB2 receptors. Actually, I didn't go a little bit further at the CB1 receptors. The CB1 receptors affect your motor activity, your thinking, your coordination, your appetite, your pain, and even sometimes your immune cells. While CB2 receptors, these are really your organs. So your gut health, your kidneys, your pancreas. This affects your bones, your eyes. If you have tumors, this is skin, liver, and your nervous system. Now, going back to THC, this produces the euphoric high effects. It has a lot of therapeutic uses, such as pain relief, nausea, appetite stimulation, and it helps open neural pathways in your brain. This is dose-dependent side effects and has potential, the potency varies with how it's administered, how you're consuming it. Now, CBD is a non-intoxicating and does not produce psychoactivity. This has a lower affinity to the CB1 and CB2 receptors, so it affects it a little bit less compared to THC. It does have therapeutic uses for anti-inflammatory, anti-covagulant, and neuroprotective. It helps protect some of your brain cells. Generally well tolerated and favorable for safety profile. So this is what a lot of people like to use when they want to do a more safer option compared to THC. So these are some of the minor cannabinoids that you also find within the plant. CBN, part of cannabinol, is known as a sedative with sedative properties, help promote sleep and relaxation. Also has anti-inflammatory and immune modulating. I like to think of when you see the N of nighttime to know that this is help for sleep. This is when you see CBN, a lot of doctors would recommend this to patients who have problems sleeping. CBG is a parent compound or the precursor to THC as well as CBD. It has also anti-inflammatory, it's also neuroprotective and mood enhancing. Now, CBC is mostly anti-inflammatory and affects mood, while THCV is a less intense than THC, used usually to reduce anxiety, but has appetite suppressant effects. There are some effects of cannabis that can both increase your appetite and also suppress your appetite. THCV is kind of known as a diet weed compound for people who want to suppress their appetite. These are some of the side effects of CBD. As I said earlier, from THC, you got that euphoric high effects, but sometimes this could lead to, in certain cases, anxiety and paranoia. It also has impaired memory and concentration and altered time perception. Sometimes when your receptors could be overloaded, and you get these certain side effects when it comes to memory loss and concentration. There's also still research about psychosis-like symptoms with high dosage and vulnerable populations. Certain people are affected differently, and some people, especially who have genetic conditions, may be more vulnerable than others, and this could lead to some type of psychotic symptoms when use of high dosage. There's also known as increased heart rate, dry mouth, dry eyes, increased appetite, as I said earlier, drowsiness, dizziness, impaired coordination, which is why we always say do not consume cannabis and drive. It could affect your tolerance and something called cannabis use disorder. For CBD, it's not really a side effect, but it's non-intoxicating. It has fatigue, drowsiness, in some cases, diarrhea and gastro issues. There's some drug interactions that should be looked into. Like here, and forgive me, I'm not the best at pronouncing these terms, antibiotics and anticoagulants. There's also elevated liver enzymes at high dose, especially as a valproate. So this is a little bit about how to participate in a medical program and how to enroll, and I'll go over this quickly. You first want to find a participating healthcare provider. They have to be certified through our medical program to certify you as a patient. You can easily go on our website to find a list of certified practitioners. You can make an appointment with them. The providers will look at you and see if medical cannabis is right for you, and they'll certify you. You want to bring that certification form or digital copy as well as the government issued ID to a medical dispensary and purchase cannabis. Now, there's other ways outside of going physically. A lot of these medical dispensaries do offer delivery options, but you want to make sure you check their website and information to see if that's available. So a little bit about finding a practitioner and what they are. Healthcare providers, also known as practitioners, who are licensed and if in good standing, which is very important to say that they're in good standing with New York State, they must complete a required training on medical cannabis that's done within our agency. You can feel free to visit our website, which will be listed probably on the next slide. It's cannabis.newyork.gov. And these are some examples of the practitioners, physicians, physician assistants, nurse practitioners. And recently we opened it up to podiatrists, dentists, midwives, and other type of medical professionals. As I said earlier, you can check out our website at cannabis.newyork.gov, specifically /medical. But you'll be able to see it on our main page. At the top of the page, you'll see an icon for medical cannabis. And this will help you find a third-party practitioner as well as find a medical dispensary near you. But that is the conclusion of the medical portion, but I also want to let you guys know that, 40 tax revenue, all cannabis tax revenue goes into a fund. 40% goes into education, that's known as DOE. Department of Education, 20% goes into drug treatment, and the last 40% goes into community reinvestment. We are doing a presentation teaching nonprofits and anyone who's interested about how to apply to our grant as well as other state grants within New York. We will have a presentation right by you guys in Harlem at the CUNY School of Public Health. This will be on December 11th at 10 a.m. Please feel free to share this with your network and any nonprofit that you know of that's looking for grant funding, which I believe is all of them. But thank you so much for having me here. I'll stick around to help answer any questions you guys may have. And I really appreciate and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. I'm sorry I'm just coming in behind your presentation, but it was wonderful from what I've seen. And I'm Shantae Styles. I'm also the co-chair for the Cannabis Task Force here at MCB9. I also have a license and certification for cannabis cultivation from behalf of BMCC and the Green, I forgot the Green School and over in the West Coast. They sponsor it, I believe.
License.
I'm gonna find the name of the school, but BMCC was the program that was able to offer it. And I just wanted to thank you for taking this time to present. It was really informative from what I heard, and I think you did an absolute wonderful job.
Thank you.
A lot of stuff that I still didn't even know, and I took 6 hours of this course almost to me. So
There's always something new to learn and always new information. I've been in this agency for 3 years. I always learn new things all the time.
yeah, I see. I really was informed about a lot of great things and some new information as well. So this was awesome, and I'm hoping that we can make this something to to do that we can have every month or not. I mean, even if it's whenever your schedule can allow you to, but something that we can arrange where you can have more of the updates and the details and fill us in.
I have
Sure.
two more-
I'm sorry. I was saying, sure, I'll be more than happy to come by. And also, our if you ever check out our website, we have a cannabis education library that anyone can view and access. And if you ever want like printed materials of our cannabis education and to give it out to your community board, you can feel free to order it online on our website for free, and they'll deliver to you guys no cost.
You said education or materials?
Education.
A little bit of
Yes.
the educational
right.
material, yeah.
Yeah. I still have some stuff left over from when we did our event in June, which we're gonna be planning, Julian, to do an event in the spring. And of course, we'll want to access your materials and share, because our whole thing is to increase awareness so that people can know what their options are and then engage responsibly. And, you know, what I started to say to you earlier, and then I had two questions pertaining to your education. You know, I think it's unfortunate that there is no medical cannabis access uptown. I want to have us look at what the challenges are so that that could be addressed and not be an issue, because we know there are some benefits. It's not for everybody, but we want to create options for sure. And I also happen to be biased. I always share every time, became more aware, and I guess you could say an advocate to use it, medical cannabis, because my mother became sick. She had cancer and she, has passed. But I found that it helped her in terms of tolerating, a condition that was, quite frankly, unbearable.
Mhm.
So I want people to have options so that they don't have to suffer, if at all possible, which is why I'm like a dog on a bone. And I try to bring it up and be responsible in how I bring it up, so that just people in our community are aware and can use the right steps or take the right path in order to make that accessible to them. So now I have a question, and if there are other people, and I see we have other people on, a fellow community board, oh, I should say a neighboring community board member is on, Bailey. Thank you for joining this evening. I'm not sure if there's anybody else, but in your presentation, you talked about, well, I guess we started talking about that earlier, cannabis use disorder.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you wanted to elaborate a little bit more about that. And then also tolerance. And, once again, the goal, once we are concluded with this meeting, the goal is for people who are lay people, not so much medical people, but maybe more lay people. We want them to understand, like, what does that mean? So that as they consider and think about that as an option, we want them to understand those terms. So can you elaborate?
I can only talk briefly on some of it. I only know so much information myself.
Okay,
Um, so I mean, I believe you talked about cannabis use disorder.
yeah,
This is
that was
it's
one of
something
them,
that affects a small portion of cannabis users. I believe this is it. What it comes with. How can I? I'm sorry. How can I explain this? So, people who are high risk of having, uh, let's say, addictions.
yeah.
Um, People who are prone to it, and people who take high doses and, let's say, large amounts of cannabis can be at risk of getting cannabis use disorder. Now, I think I mentioned this earlier before the meeting started. This is something that's still being researched, and I don't have enough information on it myself. As you may know, cannabis seen as Schedule I drug, and a lot of research. There's a lot of red tape on cannabis research, and only now have we been able to research some of the stuff. But you would need years of research to understand the cause and the links of some of these side effects. And we don't have enough information. I wouldn't want to give you guys just a hypothesis on certain disorders and symptoms. But it affects a small population of people who are at high risk. And it is something that if you are high risk, or if you have a history of certain illnesses, you want to definitely that's why we always make sure that you speak to a certified practitioner, a medical professional, when considering taking medical cannabis. You want to make
Right.
sure that it doesn't interact or interfere with any medication that you're currently taking, and this is right for you. There are some people, actually, I have a partner who has a condition where pretty much her body is, the best way I can explain it, her body is allergic to cannabis. And this is something that is developed. There's only a small percentage of the population has it, where she can't consume it and she'll actually feel nauseous and queasy and not feel well. So it's very important to understand that. Speak to your doctor when thinking about consuming cannabis and understanding what's right for you and how your endocannabis system will affect with the cannabinoids.
Okay, very good. Thank you. That's, and once again, stressing going to somebody who's more knowledgeable and can walk you through in terms of the usage. The other question I had was tolerance. You mentioned something about tolerance.
Well, what specific? Like, it's like a
I
general.
think it was under this, maybe it's under THC, so perhaps because it was under cannabis use disorder, and then you had tolerance. So meaning, I guess,
Oh, I see.
is
I
that
see.
all, is that
That's
all
how.
related?
So, if for people who are common consumers of cannabis, the more you take, it can affect your tolerance on it itself. Which means that some people might need higher dosage, some people may need more. It's important to, especially if you're doing something new. And we always tell people to start low and go slow, right? Especially when dealing with edibles. You don't want to overconsume. You don't want to be overwhelmed. It's important when you're doing something new, do some research if you could. Try to understand how your body may interact with something, and go in a low pace. There's a lot of curious people, especially in the senior population. And when let's say it comes to edibles, it can take up to a half an hour to 2 hours to feel the effects when consuming cannabis through edibles, because it's based on your digestion. And based on how digestion works, it could take a long time. So people might consume it, feel like, oh, I don't feel anything. I guess I got to take more. And they take more, and then they might feel overwhelmed, uh, they they may feel dizzy or nauseous and may have to end up going to the hospital.
Got it.
It's very important to pace yourself. Some people have a little journal to see, like, oh, I took one today. This is how the effects are. Let me see how two takes. Let me see how half of a edible may feel. How it affects your dreams. For another thing, I didn't mention it in the presentation, but it could affect your REM cycle and the fact that you may not dream. This is very common for people who are long-term cannabis users. A lot of people use this purposely who have PTSD, so they don't have to relive certain nightmares. Um, Unless you truly care about your dreams, usually you don't remember your dreams when you wake up. But this may affect long because it affects your REM cycle and how you sleep. It could affect how dreams happen to you. So there are effects. It's not a there. I want to. A lot of people may perceive it as a harmless thing, and it is a natural occurring plant, but there is certain effects that may be negative to certain people. So you want to make sure that you take it right and get the right information before consuming cannabis.
Fair enough. And so we'll keep beating the drum and beating it different ways to make sure we get the message out there, because we want people to be aware. Are there other questions?
I have a couple quick questions. The first one is,
Can you hear Julian?
I can hear him perfectly.
Okay.
so I'm Leo, by the way, Leo Arias. I'm one of the owners of Midnight Moon dispensary here on 136 and Amsterdam. Going back to the first slide, the on-charge effect, right? A lot of vendors speak to the on-charge effect. I'm kind of a nerd, so I understand THC binds to CB1 and CB2 receptors, as do the CBD and other minor cannabinoids. But terpenes, I don't believe they bind to CB1 or CB2 receptors. So therefore, is the effect of terpenes purely psychological, i.e. the smell of lavender, the smell of chamomile, or those citrus notes may put you in a specific mood, versus THC and CBD are physiological. They are actually attaching to CB1, CB2 receptors. Some vendor, and I've gotten two answers. Some vendors say terpenes are physiological. Some vendors say terpenes are psychological. Would love your opinion on terpenes and the on-charge effect.
That is a great question. I'm not that much of an expert on terpenes to know how it affects the body. As from what I know, it is mostly for how it affects the smell and the taste of the product. This is where a lot of those, as you probably already know, when people make those vapes and flowers, this is where the flavor compounds come from, as well as even just when the natural herb flower. I don't now. This could be a whole nother conversation of how a smell or a taste could affect someone's mood and physiologically. So it's so hard to say yes or no. I don't know if there is a straight up yes or no answer to that. Because as you know, let's say for example, lavender has therapeutic effects that it can affect. It can make people drowsy. It can make people calm, relaxed, and maybe even prone to be sleepy. And this has an effect just based on smelling lavender. Could that same effect from a flavor compound, a flavor note, or a terpene have that effect for velocity? Possibly. It's hard to say. I'm not a scientist. I'm a community liaison. It's hard to say definitively just based off the knowledge I have. I would recommend speaking to maybe either a certified practitioner or someone from our health and science department. They'll better answer your question.
No, I appreciate that, because it is still, I think it's hard to say, because also since cannabis isn't federally legal, there's not that much science behind it. So one of the benefits of when it does become federally legal, hopefully sooner rather than later, universities can now study this and we could understand more clearly the benefits of terpenes and how they're interacting. Another question for you when it comes to, is it fair to say THC binds more to CB1 and CBD binds more to CB2 receptors? Or is that incorrect?
Well, I think I talked a little bit about this in the presentation before of the affinity
Yeah.
the effect. That pretty much THC has kind of like a higher affinity to CB1 and CB2 receptors, while CBD is more of a low affinity. So I do believe there are how it binds does affect it. As when it's hard to say, but when a certified practitioner is recommending, I say recommending because, like you said, it's still a Schedule 1 drug, and they cannot prescribe to you, but they can only recommend dosage to you. There's sometimes it's not simply CBD. It's usually sometimes a combination, either a ratio of 1 to 2, 2 to 1, or vice versa, of THC and CBD because how it affects the receptors.
Yeah.
I believe CBD is more, as I said, is a more of a low affinity to certain receptors. However, it is a neuroprotective, right? They're still anti-inflammatory and honestly antioxidant, but a lot of people use, let's say, CBD products for, let's say, dementia patients because they can help open neural pathways to a certain extent. But at the same time, THC is still neuropathic, how it locks into certain receptors within the brain. So I would say THC is a little bit more affinity, I guess the best word, to CB1 and CB2 receptors.
Fair.
I'm not a scientist. I recommend speaking to a certified professional.
No, like you said, this is your thing.
I'm just, and then I guess one more question, when it comes to like CBC, CBG, CBN, is there, at least in your educational materials, I find that those are mentioned, but it's interesting, like you could get a high CBD gummy, like 20 to 1 ratio. But you don't see that with CBN or CBG or CBC. Is that just because CBD is popular and therefore it has a more of a client base? Or is it that CBD is actually a better cannabinoid versus CBG, CBC? I don't know if you have any visibility into that.
That is a great question. Now, it could be a factor in what the processor wants to make and how they want to use it and in their branding. But I always, people always ask, why would I go to a medical dispensary over a recreational when there's so many recreational around, right? Where there's certain products in medical dispensaries that are not available in a lot of recreational and they do have certain ratios of, let's say 1-to-1 THC or 2-to-1 CBD and other compounds. You might see more compounds like CBN or THCV or the other compounds I mentioned in medical dispensaries than comparative to some recreational, because they kind of have to have these products there. You would see some of these more prevalent in medical dispensaries compared to recreational. And it might be also just based off, let's say, the organizations that are making the products, that this is what they have and this is what we're gonna, this is what we're giving to you. It could be based off the strands that are available, what they're getting from the farmers, what they're getting from the cultivators and the nurseries. But yeah, there's actually so many factors, so it's kind of hard to answer. So hopefully I was able to paint somewhat a picture of why that you may not see these things. More and more, I think there's slowly becoming a transition of the not just listing every, because only certain people know about cannabinoids and what they do. So sometimes when you're reading it, a lot of people don't know it. So now more, I noticed that some companies are now just listing what the moods are, what the effects are. Like, this is for if you want energy, this is for if you want to be happy, this is for you want to be a little sleepy. So I've noticed that transition when it comes to reading labels and understanding it. But I think it's really based off the processor, where they're getting their stuff from, and the strains that they're getting that are currently available. I think that's what it is. Yeah, in my opinion.
I would agree. A lot of the packaging now is mood specific gummies, is what they're calling it. So energy, party, social, sleepy, calm. I also think it's better for selling. So I don't know which vendor did it first, but the vendor that did it, they saw a boost in sales. So other vendors were like, hey, we should also mood specific label our gummies as well.
Yeah, marketing was probably a factor as well.
Yeah. I do have one last question because I'm not familiar with, I have the recreational license. When it comes to the medical license, is it a similar procedure, meaning you apply with the OCM, there's a lottery, there's a waiting list to get a medical cannabis retail license, or how
It
does
is
that?
not, it's not the same process because not necessarily open to the public. Only registered organizations or ROs are allowed to have be part of medical businesses. So it's not the same process. You have to be a RO, a registered organization.
So I couldn't apply for a medical license to open a store in Harlem and then money street. Because I have to, instead it has to be like an actual medical corporation that does it, I suppose.
At the moment, yes, an RO, a registered organization.
But that does get at why, I mean, that might not be a question that can be answered now because it's involved. But before I guess ask that question, Vanessa, do you have any question you would like to ask?
Yeah, it just so
And you as well.
happened, that they were saying something on the 6 o'clock news before I left my house at
Today?
8:15.
Oh.
And it still took me 40 minutes to get a cab. Had to throw that in there to save myself. They were talking about the medical marijuana changes that have been made. I didn't understand some of what they were saying. I know that they were saying that the licensed dispensers, I guess that's what you would call them, have more freedom in how they're selling. And they also mentioned something about people who use medical marijuana are now going to be able to grow their own and in their homes at a certain amount, and it wouldn't be a problem. So there's a question about how do you separate me, just Joe Blow on the street saying, oh, well, they said we could grow our own, and the person with the license, how is that differentiated? How does that go? But then the second question is going to be, there seems to be a really large inventory of CBD drinks that are being sold in grocery stores and some bodegas and more potent THC CBD combination, like you're saying that they have a 2-to-1, so it might be 30% THC and I think it was 20% CBD. Those are being sold in grocery stores and bodegas. Is that a loophole?
Now, hemp
Interesting.
has been legal for a while, and hemp are also known as CBD products. You have to have a hemp license to sell it. And it shouldn't be any THC products within it unless it is THC derived from hemp, which is
Delta 9, does that sound familiar? Delta 9?
And yeah, if I could jump in, Julian, it's because I read the loophole, because I saw it in a supermarket. It's it is I think it's 0.03% of the
Yes.
volume is THC, you're allowed to sell it. So what they do is they take 12 fluid ounces and they put, I think it's 5 milligrams of THC, so it's below the ratio of 0.03. And therefore the supermarket is allowed, it's now classified as a hemp product because of that volume, right?
That's like when they sell the alcohol in the supermarket, they can only sell maybe a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
Kinda
like
like that.
people there.
Yeah, it's slipping. I guess that's my point, it's slipping.
Interesting.
In between
So
the.
hemp So hemp
grocery-
is mostly used for industrial or like you can make hemp to use clothes, wax, oils and things of that nature. And within the hemp flower, there's different compounds like I mentioned earlier, but like you said, there's like small percentage of THC within the hemp flower, and they take that little small 0.03%, extract it from the hemp flower, and they make THC products with it. And because it's technically from hemp, that's the loophole that some people are using. Now, the Trump administration, are trying to change the law, saying that you can't even do that anymore. This is something that this is not affected through us. This is something done on the federal level. I'm with the state. So this
Right.
is something that's kind of done outside of our purview. But this is something that's just been it hasn't been official. It hasn't something that's been passed. It's something that they're kind of talking about it now. That to answer that question. So people who have hemp licenses, they could sell the hemp products, CBD water, things like that, and sometimes they sell the THC products that's derived from hemp. I think it's also THCA or the Delta 9 or Delta 8 products you might see throughout. To help answer that question. I think your other question was about home cultivation, right? I didn't the presentation I have talks about all of this, but I was only asked to talk about the endocannabinoid system. I can send you guys a copy of the full presentation. You want to check it out, but it pretty much says
We'll bring it back for part 2, but go ahead.
sure, you can bring it back with part 2. I mean, I still have access, right? I could kind of pull it up right now.
You still have access. While you're pulling that up, what makes me then alarmed, and maybe it's just me, because we want to once again support those who are doing it the right way. We want to support them so that they're able to provide a product that is safe for residents in our community. But if there's this loophole going on, then how do we know that the product is safe?
Well, it's not. It's real THC, and these people are allowed to sell it with a hemp license. So these products are still safe and technically regulated. It's just that it's not from a medical It's not from a recreational or medical dispensary. Now, I can show this later. Because
Okay, then stop that for a moment. If somebody's going into a bodega and getting, I guess something, I mean, the bodega is not a licensed place, but yet they can sell that?
In the supermarket.
they would
And a
have to have a
supermarket?
hemp license. They would have to have a hemp license to sell
Another license.
and
So
CBD.
those entities would have it legally?
We
And
were,
the hemp license will be from our office. the
Yeah.
Office of Cannabis Management.
I think.
So as
Yeah, I
long as
think-
they have a hemp license and it's a credible license, they should be able to sell these CBD products.
Go ahead. Wait, one
now-
second.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say that. I think the correct thing is if you go to a major supermarket chain, like Whole Foods, that will sell it, they 100% have license. It could be that the bodegas are selling it without a hemp license, but the state is none the wiser. Yeah,
Right,
they should have.
okay.
Now,
And that-
I
and
should
that-
say this,
and that- Yeah,
if you see these bodegas selling THC products, like
Yeah.
flower, like it looks like just like a regular recreational product, now they might be an illicit shop, and this you should report to us and let us know. Because only people with a license from our office can sell recreational cannabis. And it would be
Right.
from a recreational dispensary. It wouldn't be from a bodega or corner store supermarket.
all right. I
Um,
mean, we're not the police, and I guess like you said, if
No,
we,
I didn't mean it like,
Yeah.
oh, go shut them down.
no, I
just
got
want-
you.
Yeah,
But
clarity on how
Just
they're
tell me.
able to do it.
I did too, because I went somewhere as well to a place that was, like, it wasn't a bodega, but almost like a cafe like type of place. And it had like a little bottle of it was like coffee and I don't know if it was THC. I don't even remember what.
Coffee and THC. Then,
Yeah.
so this, what I'm
Yeah.
saying is two things.
Yeah.
They have coffee, they have different flavors, and they tell you the THC. They even, I guess, for people who are not wanting to have a strong vibe off of it, they have two. They have one that they call light, and then they have one that's just Delta 9 or the Delta
Right,
8.
I've heard of them.
And there is a THC component that, like you said, that 3%, 0.003, and it's listed right there. It's like 30% THC and 10% either 15% of CBD. But I was just curious because it's like you can just walk in the grocery store, 5 of these, and
Yeah.
to be able to do that in a grocery store or a bodega, not all of the bodegas, but I haven't been looking
Right,
at all the bodegas. I was just wondering how are they able to sell it?
right. So, yeah, like you said, okay. I mean, you learned something new. And no, you're right. We're not trying to shut people down unless they're putting people in harm's way. So anyway, go ahead, Julian. We know you
Sure, no
pivoted
problem.
to this because of the conversation we're having and answering Vanessa's question.
Yes, I know there's a lot of questions at once, so it's hard to answer everything at once. But just to talk about home cultivation, which is it used to be originally just for medical patients, but now home cultivation is allowed for anyone who's a resident of New York State. But when it comes into terms of medical cannabis, it can be grown either by the patient or a designated caregiver. These are the limitations that you have. So you could, for one patient, you can grow up to 3 immature plants or 3 mature plants, so 6 in total. Mature plant is a flowering plant, while immature plant is still in the budding form. Maximum, regardless of how many patients, you could have maximum 12 plants, 6 immature, 6 mature plants in the household. If you're a designated caregiver, you could grow up on behalf of your patients, and I think you could have up to 4 patients as a designated caregiver. And that's kind of like the information about home cultivation. But I kind of want to see, so when it comes with illicit products, there is a risk of legal products. You want to make sure that you're looking at the product and make sure that it's from New York State. You see in these illicit products is something that's from Canada. If it's from any other state that's not New York, it's most likely an illicit product. It will be labeled. We don't use saturated colors or certain type of fonts. So if it looks like this, like depicted on the left, this is most likely an illicit product. These are more examples of unrated products. They'll look kind of like Sour Patches, or here on the right, it looks kind of like the Animal Crackers. These are obviously parodies of it. It's called Budman's and this is called Stoner Patch. But if it looks like a commercialized brand or candy, then this is definitely an illicit product. We would never allow this within the legal cannabis market. We wouldn't use certain type of colors or certain type of fonts that be attracting children. No cartoon characters or anything like that. If you see Bart Simpson or Rick and Morty in a store, you're most likely in an illicit store.
Right.
So you always want to make sure you check see this verification tool.
Right.
This tool will be prompted outside of any legal dispensary. This will be a medical or a recreational dispensary. You can scan this tool or go back to our website, to OCM's website, and it'll show you a list of legal dispensaries throughout New York City, New York State. Another way to differentiate the legal stores from the illicit stores, you shouldn't necessarily be able to see the products from the outside. If you
Right.
see the products from the outside, if you're walking on the street, you can see cannabis products. That's almost definitely an illicit stuff. You shouldn't be able to see that from the outside. There's usually some type of two-step security, like double doors. You have to go through one door, and there should be a security person that will check IDs, and then you'll be able to go into the store. A lot of dispensaries don't look like what people believe a cannabis store look like. These are more discreet, more subtle. Some people wouldn't even know it's there until you go inside. So if it's like very obvious as a cannabis store and there's cartoon characters and you can see the products from the outside and it's not prepackaged, it's kind of loose, these are almost definitely a illicit store. If you ever
Got it.
have issues on it, feel free to report an incident
Mhm.
on our website, Cannabis and If you have any other questions for me or you have medical questions, feel free to reach out to medical@opm.newyork.gov. Feel free to check out our social media. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, even the YouTube, which will have some of the virtual presentations of the community investment grant there. And I think that should be everything.
So Julian, one more from me before I ask you to transition to the other bullet on our agenda. And I didn't pull it up, and I will pull it up for those who are on, but the medical cannabis piece in terms of somebody who is a provider and they want to become certified as a medical cannabis provider. Leo asked a question, and I appreciated it. It seems like there's a challenge in terms of having those providers available in our community. And I guess I want to understand, like, and maybe this is not a short answer you can give, but like, why are there not as many medical providers up here? Because I don't believe that the need isn't here. And I know you didn't mention it, but besides going to a legal place where you know the quality of the product that you're receiving, we know there's a tax benefit for those who purchase medical cannabis. I don't know if you want to speak to that quickly, but then just in general, I don't know if you're able to speak to why we don't have providers up here.
Yes, there is a tax benefit when you could buy from a recreational dispensary. However, medical dispensaries, there's no tax associated with it. It's tax-free purchases. As I mentioned earlier, that medical dispensaries are only run and operated by registered organizations. We only currently have 11, so it's a limit of the registered organizations that could run the medical dispensaries. This is something that is we do want to open up more throughout New York State. It is something that's being looked into, but it's hard to really give a direct answer to a question at the moment.
Okay.
But I
So,
would recommend reaching out to our medical team. They might be able to help answer your question better.
all right. So that, I mean, that's good to know and something that I want us to follow up on. Cause, you know, I think it's important. And like I said, we want to get the information out there. So now I want to thank you for giving that presentation, Julian, and Shantae, did you have a question?
No, I think, I've got everything that I need to know.
Okay.
So the next item on the agenda, before I let you go, Julian, maybe you could speak to this briefly. I mentioned to you that the last time we met in September, we talked about the issue pertaining to the proximity correction. Well, I guess that's what's on your site now, but before that, there was concern about, what was happening, and any of the legal dispensaries that were established, the concern was that there was a change in terms of how the distancing was being calculated from a legal dispensary to one that might be near a school. And I know at the time in September, things were pending. Now, I know on your website, there's an update, which we included on the agenda, but
Mhm.
since you're here, maybe you can speak to what the update is.
If it's the same of what I believe it is, 'cause
Yeah.
I didn't necessarily compare. So the proximity, so the board realized the interpretation of the proximity protection was different. Prior, it used to be, well, let's say, the certain amount of footage between the residents of the property of let's say, for example, a school or a church, but now it's door to door, right? No, I'm sorry, the opposite. It used to be the door, how far from the school door to a dispensary door, but now it's the property line of, let's say, a school to the dispensary. And because of that, it kind of decreased the size for a lot of people who has licenses. So it did change recently. Some people were affected, some people were not, and the people who were affected will have to move or change their location. I believe they have a fair amount of time, a couple years before that. Like again, this information is on our website. I would recommend referring to the information on the website.
So just to be clear, and I know, Leo, this was a question or concern you had, I think when we were here last time. So I want to make sure, because I did go to the website and start to read it. The understanding is, in terms of the measuring, it's door to door now as opposed to property line to property line?
No, it's the opposite. It is property line to property line instead of no, am I saying it right? Yeah, it's property line instead of door to door. And
So it's property line to property line, which was the old or original standard versus door to door. So the
Yeah.
door to door has been put on pause. Right?
it's
For now.
done. We're now going to property line to property line.
Okay, so that's good. And because, like I said, I remember you expressed concern. Maybe you knew about this, but I just want to make sure that we reiterated it and we're following up from the last discussion. So, yeah, okay. So, so then that answers that question. And you already mentioned the other item, which was the grant opportunities. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so
So-
is that, my question for that would be,
Oh.
that would be on December 11th for that event that's happening on 125th at Building 55.
Mm-hmm.
Is going to be like a workshop, or is that an actual day that we can apply for the grant? How does that work on that day?
No, this will be more of a presentation workshop.
Oh.
We're preparing nonprofits on how to apply, how the system works, and a little bit of information about our grant process. And they're not just going to learn how to apply for our grants. We're going to teach how to apply to any state grant in New York. So it's gonna talk a little bit about the SFS system as well as their e-grant system, which we'll be using for our grants.
Is this
Okay.
only for nonprofits?
This for the people who apply to our grant, you have to be a 501 C to apply. to it. So now anyone could come to the presentation. Anyone who's interested, anyone who wants to become a nonprofit, and wants to learn how this information is. But if you want to qualify for the grant, you have to be a 501c3.
Okay,
501c.
okay. So, okay, so that taps into the other part of our agenda. So you explained that, and it looks like for us, we were trying to figure out, like, what should we do? What is the next step to access the money? And one of my other chairs, she's not on, but we'll make sure to share it with our youth and education committee chairs, because I believe the last time money was disseminated, I believe the focus was for programs serving young people, youth or young adults. I don't know if that
So
criteria is
it's
still,
going to be I believe it's going to be the same criteria this year. So these are
okay,
from nonprofit organizations that deal with youth and focus on housing, I believe, workforce development, and mental health.
okay,
We're
got
going
it.
to talk about it more in the
In
presentation.
the session?
Yes.
Yeah. And that's fine. As we work to promote the event, we just want people to know like what they need to be bringing to the table so that we can increase the chances of someone, hopefully from our community, being able to access the fund. So with that said, if there are no other questions, you've stayed longer than you expected, but it was worthwhile because you answered a lot of questions that we had, and we appreciate you, Julian.
Oh, it's
And
no
the
problem
work
at
that
all.
you guys do, huh?
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. You guys, it's like you guys are friends at this point. It's like I come by every year, like it's a holiday. But thank you so much. Looking forward to the next time I speak to you guys, and I hope to see you guys at the Harlem presentation to learn more about community
Keep it on the
investment.
calendar, and I believe I can make it. And like I said, we'll share it to encourage other people. And as I said, I have my fellow community board member on from CB10. So she's showing us love and she's getting the information. So hopefully maybe she can show up and share with her CBOs as well.
Yes,
So,
please feel free to share the flyer to everyone. We shared it to our network, and I try to find as much nonprofits in Manhattan as possible. But I know there's more than what I found, so please share it so other people can have opportunities to get the grant funding. Now, thank you
yes.
so much. I hope you guys have happy holidays and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Julian.
Have a great
Okay,
evening.
have a good evening. Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna try to navigate around this for a minute. And if I mess up, then forgive me. Actually, ooh. Well, you guys, I wanted to make sure I briefly showed the agenda and I'm trying to see how to get to. Okay, I know, oops, no, I don't want to do that. Here, okay. How do I minimize this? Like that?
You can hit the accent.
Okay, there you go. So here it is. I think I'm supposed to go here.
Do you want to share that?
I wanted to, no, actually, I didn't want to share that yet. I wanted to go to, I got a can here. So we did a lot already on the, I think I'm sharing this. Am I sharing this?
If you go back to Zoom.
Okay, share.
Okay,
Okay.
hit share. Yep, hit Zoom workplace, yep, that one.
You ended it?
No, no.
No, I didn't end it.
No, go on the right, yeah, that one. Now hit share.
Okay,
and
there you
then
go.
Share the first screen, below, after.
This
Yeah.
one? Okay, this is why I hate doing this. So there you go. Takes a village. All right. So we already did the presentation and we're very grateful for what Julian shared. He already covered this part, which was very fortuitous. And then here, in terms of updates, old business, once again, the focus was the grant opportunity. And now we know that, I didn't ask him when they're gonna release it, but at least we know that there are workshops, the 2 dates, which will make sure we get out, that we can get hopefully a number of our CBOs to join and be hopefully successful in showing interest to apply. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, did they say that the grant, though she gave us like the 2 days, I think it was like the end of the year, wasn't it something,
Well,
at January, one had, I would say may have passed, but there are 2 within the year.
so, I mean, I'm assuming, I was gonna ask him, but I'm assuming if you go to the workshop, which one is on the 11th
Yeah.
of December and then one is on the 18th, I believe the assumption is that they'll tell you what the time frame is to apply and the due date, which I believe is at the beginning of the new year.
Yes, okay.
I believe. So we'll go and look at it further, once, he already shared the flyer, so I'll make sure to share it and then we'll look at it. So the other thing I wanted to make sure I shared with all of you before we got on the call or Zoom with Julian was that we had reached out to our assembly member Lasher because we thought that was the way to get us on the right track to accessing funds. And they pretty much expressed a willingness and interest to work with us. But they said that they weren't as aware and had encouraged us to also reach out to our local representatives. So we did reach out to council members, Salam and Abreu, and, we thought they might join us. And, we'll continue reaching out to them, but it sounds
I
like,
have the representative from his office that came last week, Thursday, so I have her direct contact, and I believe after the Thanksgiving, I could reach out and send another email.
yeah, so it's the person from Salam's office was at our general meeting. And we let her know that we would be reaching out and wanted to work with them. So it's probably still worth working with them.
Okay.
Also working with the new borough, Manhattan Borough President, because we know that there was a lot of interest and I would say love from the Manhattan Borough President around this issue. And maybe that interest is still there out of the Manhattan Borough President's office as well. So it wouldn't, I don't think it will hurt us to tackle the council members as well as the Manhattan Borough President, as well as us encouraging people to go to the workshop session so that we have all our bases covered essentially. So anyway, in terms of old business, this is where we're at. Okay, so now new business. And by the way, we're already now, what times, 7:50. We have a small task force, and so I already did the welcome, but now more people are here. Call to order, of course, because we have more people here and adopting the agenda. So even though we started the meeting around 7:40, 6:40, we're fully into the meeting now with it being 7:50. So, and once again, I don't know if there were any comments in terms of the minutes that were shared from September. I doubt that people have any comment or edits, but for some reason, if you do, let me know. Now, there's in the chat. Oh, that was from Julian, so maybe that doesn't mean anything. All right, so now new business. What I would like to do is update, you, Leo, and Bailey, if Bailey's still on. As you know, there were 2 things that were time sensitive. Oh, I should have asked Julian about this, but it might be moot now. Anyway, 2 things in terms of new business. The resolution letter that we submitted as it relates to Cannabis Showcase event. There was actually due yesterday, public comment regarding this particular issue around Cannabis Showcase events. And essentially, it pertains to, I guess, pop-ups, if you will, or events where cannabis products would be present and available. And the letter of comment that so I'll stop sharing this, I could pull that up. Okay, so
If it's in the same, yeah.
It is, so now I have to see what that, those were the minutes, so let me go to this first, right? So there, so now you say, I go here, did I get it? Here and share. Yes, I'm an expert, okay,
And next time you don't have to close out,
I
because
don't,
you're sharing the whole window, see how it's on top,
oh,
Yeah.
so you could change.
okay, so I could actually click on these and it will show up? Oh, that's even better, okay. So now, in terms of, the item that I was referencing, which is the letter of comment that needed to be submitted by actually yesterday, November 24th. As I said, it focused on cannabis pop-ups. And for us, you know, a few things, getting to the part that we expressed our position as a community board. We wanted to stress two things. One, we wanted to make sure as a community board, we were notified in a timely manner so that anything that is happening in terms of a pop-up, we have notification, not too different from when a legal dispensary wants to come into the community. We ask those members to come before the community board so that we have a chance to have a conversation, so that hasn't changed as it relates to a pop-up. We're asking for a review period of 30 days to do that. And then, of course, the goal is to make sure that we have transparency so that in our community, we're sharing and we're able to build on community trust, if you will. The other thing which we wanted to stress in terms of this letter of comment, which I know I didn't really get to go into because we were concerned about time. I know in these regulations, they talk about municipalities and jurisdictions. So that word has different meanings depending on what you're looking at in terms of upstate versus downstate New York. Upstate municipalities, that term, or jurisdictions, has a very different kind of connotation versus greater New York downstate, where we focus more on boroughs. And then when you go to boroughs on an even smaller level, community boards. So we thought that in terms of additional considerations and edits, they should add language that talks about the community boards as well, because that's very specific to downstate. So more language around that. It's something that we thought should be mentioned and strengthened when it relates to the pop-up regulation provision, if you will. So those are the two things that were key that we stressed in this letter of comment. It went in yesterday, and copies went to all these elected officials. And we'll see what happens. I'm sure that we'll hear comments eventually. I know that CB9 has a good reputation in terms of us responding and giving very thorough responses or thoughtful responses. So I'm sure at some point we'll hear back from our local elects. The other thing in terms of the work that we were doing in the community board is around the budget and the district needs statement that is submitted on behalf of the community. And since I sit on health and environment, and health and environment has been pretty much involved early on in terms of the whole legalization around cannabis, because we understood what that meant in terms of things opening up in our community, but still wanting to make sure that there was responsible people opening up dispensaries, and also just educating our community board so that they were able to make thoughtful decisions. I'm not gonna go through all 4 pages. What I will go to is the part that pertains to our task force. So you can see we covered a number of different issues, but as it relates to cannabis itself, we had a component that we added: need for access to cannabis tax funding for local education. So this goes back to accessing the grant and making sure that we have an opportunity to continue educating our community. And, you know, before I spoke to Julian, I had researched and discussed with Shantae some of the things that related to the community grant reinvestment fund. And Julian started mentioning it. And this talks about the language about, it says reinvesting 40% of adult use tax revenue to communities that were negatively impacted by, you know, those different policies. And so right now, we want education around two areas: provide education targeting youth and young adults. And one of the things that came up is a concern about, and I started to try to address it with Julian, use. When you're dealing, we know that the legal dispensaries target adults. I think it's a 21 or older or something like that, right? So that is who is supposed to go into the legal dispensaries, period. With that said, the reality is that we know people under 21 are using cannabis. And the concern we have is that because their minds are still developing, we want them to be just mindful of the impact that it could have in terms of development. And so, you know, we're not trying to be policing people, but we just want to share information so that, but particularly young people are aware. So we're hoping that we can use the money, and when we identify a organization, and part of the education can go to educating our young people, our youth. The other thing too is to see, and I don't think it's here, okay, it's not in this component, but the other thing I would like to see us use the funding for, and it's in the other part of our district needs statement, is education around medical cannabis. You know, what that means, the opportunities, what it can do for you. Once again, making people aware so that they have options. So anyway, this is the needs. I keep using the wrong mouse. This is the yeah, this is more or less the needs statement that we submitted. This is a part of the process as we are looking to work with the city around the budget that will come out probably July 1st of next year. This is that time of year where those conversations happen, and you want to make sure you get in somebody's ear so that you are being considered and can have access to funds, which is why we wanted to reach out, and we did reach out to our local elects. But anyway, this is a district needs statement. Okay, we did this already. And what's this? Okay, this was the actual application itself, which actually was quite, I mean, this information around this application is monstrous. I'm not gonna go through it because it says it's 177 pages. Part of it, see, last year it was due in December. So we don't know what that's gonna look like this year, but that's why we want to get people to the table. But this was a long, massive application.
Oh, that's a direct link. Please, you know.
The direct link to the
Oh,
pre-submission
pre-submission
webinar. Okay, I guess this is to register for the webinar. So I'm assuming that link is on the flyer that Julian shared with us, so we
Yeah,
will make
yeah.
sure to get that out. And I'm trying to see, was there anything else on there? Okay, so then those are the things the article.
That was a quick article.
Yeah, so this article goes back to the question I was asking Julian about use. And this article, diagnosis tied to chronic cannabis use. So we'll make sure to include this when we send stuff out. Once again, it's just
Could you scroll down a little bit?
yeah, I'm trying to
Go to read more. At the bottom.
this,
Yeah,
is this
it's still-
pertaining to, okay,
It is, it's still a little short.
or here or here? But once again, this goes back prior to what Julian was saying.
Oh.
Well, okay, barely,
There it is.
so barely,
That's what it
the other person that was on there, she was, no, she left and I wanted her to hear this, but. Once again, I want us to start thinking about. How. We can. Provide a resource to the community.
Yeah.
We have time, we don't have to have that full-blown discussion, but I definitely, for example, you as someone who is in this space and, you have your dispensary, you might have thoughts about how we can engage, one, to let people know you're here and you're offering a product that's legitimate and, we want to support you. And two, just like you came last year to the conference, we want to start earlier this year and think about addressing a topic that would be of interest so that we can get people out. So because you are owner and you also say you're nerdy, maybe there are thoughts that you have in terms of what you think as a community board we can begin looking at and who we should partner and reach out to bring people to the table. I'm sorry, the other dispensary didn't come. So, I'll follow up with them because we also expect for them to participate as a good neighbor. They should be coming and giving back. And that's why, for me, the expectation is that they should be here. So I will, when I go by, I'll let them know that. And I think I'm not just speaking for myself. I think as a community board, that's the expectation, right, co-chair? So with that said,
Do you have any ideas, because we were thinking about some ideas for our.
Yeah, I think more educational, so the differences between THC and CBD. To the extent that since hemp products are legal, to the extent that you could, I think. You can't offer THC products, but if you could offer hemp products, perhaps that will engage more people. Or the third step is I could always get uninfused gummies so that people could taste the gummy and they could say, okay, well, this actually is just like candy, because they might be, to invest $30 to buy something that you don't believe will taste good, may have some friction. But to me, especially with Midnight Moon, the biggest lift is educating. So when we get customers in, a lot of them don't know the difference between THC and CBD. So it is a conversation to have. And I think that at least with the new customers, they are very curious. The older customers, or I mean more experienced, I should say, they're buying flower, they're buying pre-rolls, they've been consuming cannabis prior to legalization, so they're very comfortable with grinding flower, rolling pre-rolls. People that are new to cannabis aren't usually buying flower pre-rolls. They don't smoke cigarettes,
right.
so they're not gonna smoke cannabis, so their means of consumption is usually edibles. And within edible scope, gummies are the most popular. Then you have some that will do vapes, but there's a lot of negative press around vaporizers. Even the nicotine vapes have gotten negative press, so some customers are hesitant to consume vapes because of the effects it have on your lungs. So from a topic, I would say education around THC, the differences between THC, CBD is helpful. The different ways of consuming cannabis, be it edible form, flower form, tincture, which is a more obscure, but still one thing. I always tell people, once you get into tinctures, especially if you're used to edibles, that becomes your preferred way of consuming cannabis, because you could really measure the dosage and it hits faster than Julian mentioned. Edible could take 30 minutes to 2 hours, and tincture won't take about 20 minutes because it's sublingual. So it's similar to like chewing tobacco in that it's going into your blood circulation tongue. Versus when you can swallow a tincture, now it is inedible because it has to go to the so I think those topics, I find customers when I'm talking to them engaged, they ask more questions, they ask follow-up questions. I think that could help spur more people.
Engagement
More
and interest.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we want to do.
To the extent that you could collaborate with Columbia University or collaborate with City College to promote on their graduate school
Yeah,
side of things. I know, like I used to have a wine store before,
yes,
so I know Columbia University had a wine club that I would speak to on the graduate side. I don't know if they have a cannabis club, I doubt it, but again, you could target, because those are more engaged and active participants that will come out. the older audience may be a little less excited to go out to the event.
Interesting. Yeah, so this youth component, because it's got a more youthful side, though, you know, the understanding is that the largest growing group in terms of use of cannabis recreationally is seniors, older adult seniors.
So in terms of dollars spent, older adults are spending more because they have more discretionary income than younger adults. And a lot of the older adults themselves were using cannabis prior to the legalization. So again, they're familiar with it. So they're usually going into, so like our store tends to lean younger in our demographic, but I know there's a store in Long Island. They lean very much on the older side of the demographic. So it is neighborhood contingent, so I would say maybe it would be, like I could ask Justin at the next meeting. What Strains for Life is seeing on their demographic split, but assuming that they're also leaning younger, i.e. 21 to 35. Then we know our neighborhood, it seems to be younger folks on the outside. And also the older like Latino community that are really cannabis consumers. It tends to be older white folks that are much more comfortable buying cannabis.
Interesting, okay. And what about in terms of African Americans?
So with African Americans, I think the older crowd, they'll purchase as well, but they also need more of the flower.
Got you, so they can roll it.
Yes,
Okay.
because they're.
Got it. No, that's good to know. So as we continue, I mean, this by itself probably can lend us to think about who to reach out to, how to focus our energies,
Our demographics.
our demographics, and how we promote. We usually do it at Columbia, and you know, it might actually still be an option because of the kind of setup and space that is offered to us. And it also kind of helps to give it some more legitimacy, for lack of a better word, because it's not like hiding out in the fringes. It's like somewhere pretty mainstream, which is why when we did our first event, we were very intentional. But you know, we still have time, and we'll think of we'll work on that and then begin to reach out to people so that we don't wait to the last minute. But I think that's it. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, because then we can begin to wrap up. Okay, good. So with that said, I feel like I'm talking to a void there. We're gonna conclude the meeting. It is 8:12. And for those who end up looking at this recording later, we're gonna thank you in advance for coming and joining us and learning more information. And we look forward to seeing you in the new year. Be safe and thank you. So, stop. Good. Now we want to, yes.